I'm going to do a survey on all my trucker friends that eat sardines. I'm serious. I want to know. I want people to send me. They send us letters all the time. I want them to write in and tell me what's their favorite snack. If you're a trucker, and I'll be honest with you, when I was a trucker, I was not a sardine lover. But if I was back on the road right now, seriously, they're like 98 cents in Walmart for a can of sardines, right? In the mustard sauce. 98 cents. And they're so healthy. There was a lady that I just seen it. I don't know where I read it, but I read this article where this woman, she ate 4 cans of sardines a day. And she had to stop taking her blood pressure medicine and her cholesterol medicine because she lost 30 pounds, and she only did it for 130 days, which is 3 months or 4 months, right? Something like that. So all her vitals, her body became regular, like what you would call regular if you don't need medicines. And so you know how truckers, they say 80 or 85% of all truckers are very unhealthy because you're sitting in a seat with no, movement. You're just cruising down the road, right? Especially those dry vanners, right? If you're hauling a dry van truckload, you're dropping hook. You're not really doing. Back in my day, man, I don't care what you drove. They had you back there counting the freight or breaking a pallet down. All that stuff. Now nobody's really touching crap these days. So these poor guys aren't getting any exercise. So I'm wondering if truckers got on the sardine diet. And I know some of them are probably going, ew. You know what I mean? Remember the old joke about anchovies on pizza?
No, but I'm still trying to swallow after you talk about sardines.
But they're so good.
No.
I mean, you don't even need any, some people put them on crackers. I don't want the carbs, right? So this woman, she eats 4 cans of sardines a day for 130 days. She loses, now you're talking, she loses 30 or 40 pounds.
It's because she was starving.
No, she loses 30 or 40 pounds. She's getting all the benefits from this fish oil and the fish and all this stuff you're eating, right? And she literally has to go off her medicine because she's doesn't need it anymore. And if you don't need cholesterol medicine or blood pressure medicine, guess what? It could be dangerous if you're on it. So she had to go off that. And now I read she's going to start implementing some beef and maybe some chicken into her diet. She's like a carnivorous chick, right? But I'm telling you, one of my soft spots is sardines. And if I was back on the road, right, I would probably have days where all I did was sardines. It's so healthy. You think we can get truckers to write in and say, yes, I like sardines? Tell me, guys, I want to know if you got a healthier diet than sardines 4 times a day out there on the road. What do you think, R?
That's just gross.
Yeah, but the problem is you're adhering to your taste buds. You're letting your taste buds dictate to you what you're going to do. That's the people that eat a box of ice cream at 10 o'clock at night. They're letting their cravings dictate how their bodies are going to be. And when you're a truck driver, you've got to overcome that. I suggest sardines. Well, and there's nothing wrong with a little chocolate, as dessert. You got to have your chocolate. What do you think?
Chocolate. I might like me some chocolate.
Look, I want to know what these guys are eating out there. They're writing into us all the time. How many of them wrote this week saying, hey, the roads are blocked off in North Carolina? I mean, and I love it when they do that. But I want to know what you're doing out there on the road to be healthy, drivers. We care about you. Rutha, do you care about these drivers?
Oh, yeah, I do. Hey, I gotta say this, though. There's this one guy, he's a trucker. I think he has a TikTok or whatever that has he's like the burpee guy or something like that, where he plugs the thing in for fuel. And as he's fueling up, he's doing exercises around his tractor and truck or trailer. So that guy I commend. He's got what's going on there.
I know, but I'm going to be honest. I seen the one guy. What's that guy, the dancing trucker?
I don't know.
Like he dancing at truck stops and stuff. I'm like, there's no way.
No, I mean, hey, he's out of his box. That's okay.
He's definitely out of his box.
I would do it. I almost danced going out of the DMV today.
Yeah.
I was really happy to finally get out of there, but they were playing. What was they playing? Was it? Oh, it was Queen.
I get it, but I don't mind embarrassing myself. But then there's like taking it to an extreme. So, anyways, moving on.
Moving on.
Driver's right to me. I want to know. Moving on.
Moving on.
Hey, before we take a break, I gotta. You know, we've been doing the shout outs lately.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little shout out. Got a little shout out. Well, first off, let's shout out to our friends over there at Safe Truck Parking. Okay. Safe Truck Parking. And if you're looking for parking, dial 972-391-5610 to those boys over there at Safe Truck Parking. Got another shout out. I almost said shout out.
I heard that.
That sounded like you. A guy named Brad. I want to give him a shout out. It's like really cool little letter he wrote us. He's a trucker, obviously. We don't accept letters unless you're a trucker. We should start validating them. I need your CDL when you're writing to us. That's right. Oh, I got to remind you of something. In 1 second. Okay, so Brad writes and he says, I wanted to drop a quick note to thank you for your podcast. Brad said, you guys help me get through the long drive almost every day. Not sure what I'm going to do when I get all caught up on your episodes. Keep up the great work. Brad, you've got like 900 episodes. And in our early years, we were doing an episode a day, 90 minutes. We did 90 minutes 5 days a week. We had a lot of talking. But that was back when the audio wasn't the greatest. So don't judge the audio. But you got a lot to catch up on, Brad. But seriously, that was a super cool email. And you know, I wanted to just say, shout out to Brad Rethan.
Hey, Brad.
I wanted to remind you of something you forgot about. And I told you to write it down. Our friends in New Zealand that we met at the Louisville Truck Show last year sent you a letter.
Warren and Janine
asking us, you know, if we were okay because they seen the hurricane.
Yeah. She sent me a message.
And I did not notice, like they're listening to the podcast, right? And she said they got people over there listening to us also. Mm-hmm. So shout out to Warren and Janine, our news. And we are going to, did they not invite us to come over?
They did.
So
we got us to New Zealand.
Right. So Ben up in Canada said he wants us to come up and hang out. And like Ben's got his RV on like this cool mountain looking lake. You know what I mean? He sits there fishing and sitting by the campfire and doing his thing. And he just started hauling a B30. I said, do a video, a walk around. It's got like 30 tires and it's a 100-foot trailer. What they're pulling up there in Canada, he was telling me. Yeah, I know. So I'm like, give me a video, man. I'll put it up for Talk CD Up. But anyways, Janine and Warren, shout out to you over there in New Zealand. All right. And to all those New Zealanders that are listening to us, Ruth-Ann. I love it. I am loving this podcast.
I'm glad you're loving it. I mean,
do you remember when we met them in what was the place called? It was
Johnny Silks.
No, Jockey Silks.
That was Johnny Silks.
Well, first off, when you go to the Louisville Truck Show, the theme there obviously is the Kentucky Derby and the bourbon that they make in Louisville. Mm-hmm. So we are in Jockey Silks, which is in the Galt House, which is a big giant hotel on the river. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting having dinner and we met them.
Yep.
And we all just started talking. And next thing you know, we had a beer together and we all ate together and we're just like really hanging out, exchanged numbers and names. And that was so cool to hear from them. I mean, it's like you go on a cruise ship and you meet people and you're like, we're going to be friends for life. And then you're like 10 years later, didn't we meet people that we were friends for life with?
You're looking through the picture and like, who is that? Who am I really chummy with right there?
Exactly. 10 years ago, you're like, who the hell are those people with their arms around us? Oh, yeah, they're our friends for life. So anyways, shout out to y'all. And we got a couple interesting things to talk about today on Talk CDL Trucking Podcast. And as soon as we take a break and say hi to our sponsors, we will get on with the show. Ready to take a break? So Ruthann, you're on a podcast. You can't shake your head. Okay. We haven't started. I know we told her we were going to start videoing it and putting this on YouTube, but of course I didn't. So, but anyways, let's go ahead. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Truck Parking Club is a network of instantly reservable daily and monthly truck parking locations throughout the U.S. Truck Parking Club helps connect truckers to truck parking locations throughout the U.S. via truckparkingclub.com. Our networks is made up of property owners that have locations adequate for truck parking to list on the platform. This includes trucking companies, storage companies, CDL schools, trailer leasing companies, real estate investors, truck parking operators, and more. Go to truckparkingclub.com today.
Attention trucking companies and truck drivers. If you need help with cash flow, we've got help on the way. Turn to Tab Bank, the bank that knows trucking. Tab Bank has been in the business of helping truck drivers and trucking companies with their cash flow needs for 25 years. It's just that simple. It's what they do, but they don't stop there. Tab Bank helps grow your business with their invoice, factoring, and banking services. What a plus that is. Before you book your next load, play it safe and contact Tab Bank to get their help with your factoring needs. Tab Bank helps determine the credit worthiness of your customers as well as billing and collection efforts on invoices that you factor with them. Let the experts at Tab Bank get you cash quickly for the loads you deliver. Again, it's what they do. Visit tabbank.com/talkcdl to learn more. That's tabbank.com/talkcdl. Tab Bank member FDIC.
Drivers, if you're looking for a local, home, everyday driving job, apply with Carter Lumber today. They have positions for Class A and Class B local drivers. They can take experienced drivers, students, and non-CDL drivers. With over 160 locations, chances are they have a position for you. So go to carterlumber.com/talkcdl and apply today. Again, that's carterlumber.com/talkcdl. Thank you. If you're a driver looking for a new trucking job, check out NCI. NCI offers the following: new Kenworth T680s, competitive wages, solo, team, and students welcome, plus a full benefit package for you and your family. Check them out today at 888-311-7076. That's 888-7076. And tell them Talk CDL sent you. All right, so we are back. Something I heard, I mean, blah, blah, blah. Some people may find this funny. Some people may not. I find it humorous.
You fine.
Okay, and the first part I'm not saying is funny. Like, we know in next month, about 177 truckers are risking losing their CDL because of the SAP program. Right. And I read in an article that 134,000 of them haven't even started the return to duty status. But and it's sad because you guys really got to get working on getting these things, or your CDL is gonna be reduced down. But what I thought was humorous, I was talking to a trucking company the other day. They said they get so many phone calls from drivers every day that are looking for a job. This is their recruiting department. They said they get so many SAP calls, drivers that are on the SAP program. He said they brought a cowbell in and hung it in the office. And every time somebody calls in and says, "Do you take SAP drivers?" is when they hang up, all you hear is ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. So, I mean, they're making light of it, but I thought that was actually quite funny. I wish I could get a video of that. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but when the guy was telling me, he was just cracking up laughing. He said, he's the director. I was talking to him, and he said, I'll be just sitting back there in my office with my door closed, and I can hear it off in the distance, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. A couple minutes later, ding-a-ling-a-ling. He said literally, like within every 10 minutes, it's going off, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. And it's funny, but it's also sad that many drivers, knowing that you're going to do this. And I'm going to tell, I know I say this to you guys all the time. Stop shitting on your CDL. I mean it.
I agree. It's really, it's knowing the restrictions they have on CDLs. Why keep playing with it? It's like, like a game to them. It seems like they're just going to chance it. It's like roulette to them.
I know I've met a lot of those guys, and a lot of them think they can pass. They got all kind of ways of passing.
Mm-hmm.
And they just keep taking a chance. But anyways, I'm not going to harp on that subject. It's you've got about 4 weeks. Okay, guys, you have to be on step 5, or in 4 weeks it's downgraded. Anyways, moving on. So, Ruth Ann Austin,
You kept looking at my foot. I put it up because it hurt.
Oh, we should tell that story. I forgot about that. Ruth Ann's got, it looks like a ring around her toe. It's really black and blue from where she broke her toe on my weight bar.
Mm-hmm.
And you came walking out, and you're like, I think I broke my toe. And when you pulled your sock off, I was like, oh, there's no doubt. That thing is broke. That's nasty looking. Ugly toe. We're going to refer to it as Ruth Ann's ugly toe.
Yeah, it hurts.
Sorry. It sucks to be you. All right. Anyways. Moving on. Now I got to cut that out. The cough. What did we want to talk about today? Somebody had asked me the other day about, I was talking to his company, and they were asking me, because I know a lot of companies, and how they hire, and what they do to hire, and all this other stuff. And we got into talking about how many actual applications do these trucking companies take in, and how many do they hire. And this one company that's got about 500 trucks was telling me they take in about 8,000 applications a month.
Wow.
And out of that 8,000 applications, they only average hire about 10 drivers a week. There's probably 50+% they can't get a hold of. But then a giant percent of those guys, they just cannot hire because of accidents, because of all kind of little, things that are affecting them. And so they asked me, or I asked them, well, what's your standard? And they said, well, here's what they go by when they're hiring. They have what's called minimal requirement. And they can never go below their minimal requirement. And he said, I'm going to give you an example. There was a driver this week that applied with this company. He said the driver had 8 years experience with a major trucking company. I think it was like USA Truck or Warner, one of those big companies.
Someone that's known.
He said, listen to this. The driver was there for like 7 or 8 years, and every year the driver received a safe driving award. But about a year ago, the driver put the truck in a ditch. For whatever reason, he ended up in the medium. Didn't roll over. Didn't hit anything. But because, when you go into the medium, you're going to tear stuff up. Tore the truck up and had to be towed. They terminated this driver, right? They fired him. And guess what? He said this driver came to them for a job, the company that was telling me this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they are not allowed to take on anybody that had a preventable DOT recordable accident in the last 36 months. And we know the definition of a DOT recordable accident is and I'm talking preventable, not a non-preventable, but a preventable is if there's death, injury, or towing involved. And the injury could be from any party that's involved in the accident, okay? Or the towing of either vehicle, all right? He said they cannot hire the driver. And I said to him, you're telling me, and well, let me back up for a second. Their minimum requirements are something like a driver can have like upwards of 3 tickets, and he can also have like upwards of 2 or 3 minor accidents, right? And have like 10 jobs in the last 3 years. So I said, you're telling me you can take a driver that's been working for 10 different companies in the last 3 years. He's had 3 minor accidents and 3 moving violations, but you cannot take a driver that's been with one company for almost 8 years, with all 8 years being safe driving awards, and he had one little mistake, and he went into a ditch, and it became what's called a DOT recordable accident because he had to be told you can't hire him. He said, that's correct. He said, and I'll tell you why. He said, because if we hire below our minimal standards, he said, we can get sued major. Like if we hire that driver and he goes down the road in our truck and has an accident and hurts somebody, now we're going to have a major lawsuit because we hired below our minimal standards. Does that make sense? It's sad, isn't it?
I can see the minimal standards with certain things, but I wouldn't say with that. I mean, with the DOT recordable, with that definition of what happened, that's what's bothering me.
Well, just let me interject one thing. And the minimal standard does include no DOT preventable recordable accidents in the last 36 months. So the insurance company writes these policies and they say you cannot hire a driver with this, but you can hire a driver with a bunch of tickets and a bunch of small accidents and a bunch of jobs with no safe driving awards. You can hire that guy, but you can't hire the guy that's been an amazing driver for like 7-8 years, and then he had one thing happen to him, and I was appalled at that. I was like, that poor driver.
Yeah.
That poor guy. He spent 7-8 years being like the perfect driver, and then he messes up one time, and that one time the minimum standard says you cannot come aboard. And then here's the problem with this guy. Most likely he hasn't worked. They told me he hasn't worked in a year. Most likely other companies are not giving him a break because nobody wants to be the first company to hire you after an accident.
Well, honestly, he could have ended up in the medium because he swerved to miss hitting a minivan or something. Like there could be more to it that we can't take into account because, of that. But, he took he might have taken the worst of the least worst of it because, you say never swerve from hitting a deer or never swerve from hitting a dog or anything like that because you could cause something more severe. Well, he's seen an out from maybe hurting someone or killing people. He's seen the out of going into the medium and thinking that was the better of the situation. I would say maybe that would be it.
Well, and in all honesty, a lot of drivers would ask that question. Maybe the guy was trying to avoid something. Maybe he had a medical reason, or maybe he had a blowout, right, a front tire. But it obviously got deemed his fault. That's why it was called a preventable, number one, and then plus the company fired him. And so that would lead me to believe that's why here he is a year later, and nobody will give the poor chap a break. I mean, I feel really bad for a driver that has such good merits and such a good reputation. Just that one thing could shoot your career down to the pits, And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that drivers, you got to be really, really cautious. And I don't know, it was almost a year ago, but I think it was in the winter. Okay. And so my guess is maybe he slipped on snow or ice, So my guess would be if you've got dangerous roads, don't let anybody talk you into driving. Get it parked. Because if you have an accident like that, there's a good chance your career might be almost over.
Well, and also, I mean, I know there's a lot of drivers out there that still have hang-ups on cameras, but this would be something that would be an incident where it would help to have a camera to prove if you did do something wrong or not.
Well, the other thing is, the other question, and we talked about this years ago, but it's still the same. I've sat with safety directors. So not only do they ask the question, does he meet our minimal requirements? Okay. But every trucking company, their lawyers will always want you to take in consideration every time you hire a driver, how defendable in court is this driver? Meaning, if this driver gets into an accident or he does something, how defendable is he going to be? Are we going to be able to go to court and be behind this guy and defend him? Or are we going to go to court and be deemed in negligent hiring because we hired him on something we knew we shouldn't have hired him on? Okay. An example, another example, I was talking to a driver this week, and he said he's having a hard time getting a job. And it reminded me of this. He said the reason companies are telling him, because he went and got his CDL, he's new, but the school he went to was only 40 hours. It's like this one of these quick schools. And 99% of every trucking company, their minimum normally is a 160-hour course.
Mm-hmm.
And some will go down as low as 120. But I don't. If you're looking for good schooling, in your hires, most are never going to go down to 40 hours.
No.
And so this guy's having a hard time because, again, if a trucking company said, okay, let's take a chance on the 40-hour guy, but their personal minimal standard is 160 hours for a new driver, and he goes out and does something, gets into a wreck, they're going to bring all that into court, and what's going to happen? Boom. He's going to be going, or the company's going to have to come with their checkbook. Another example is this. Let's say you hire somebody that has a very checkered past. And I don't mean, I'm talking like felonies, but like say a felony, like a drug felony, companies they'll look at that. Or a robbery felony, they'll look at that. A lot of them will, if it's old enough. But let's say a driver, and I've talked to drivers over the years that had sexual felonies, okay? A predator felony, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now here's what I was told. If they hire this guy, because a lot of these guys, they get upset when they can't get hired because maybe they've done their time, they've committed the crime, they've done their time, and they want a second chance, but nobody wants to give them a second chance, and here's why. A company hires, say, a predator, somebody that's been convicted of sexual battery, say the rape of a woman, okay, or the rape of a child, or something to that effect. And he goes across state line, which now makes everything a felony when you cross state line, and he does something to that nature in their truck. Can you, and what they were telling me is, now, what do you think the prosecutor's office, will they have a field day or will they have a tough time with that? The answer is they're going to have a field day with that because, first off, you hired somebody knowing what their past was, and you took a chance on that guy, and he went and did exactly what he had been in prison for. And now it's deemed negligent hiring. You might as well bring your checkbook because you're going to get sued for a lot more than you probably can handle.
Negligent hiring is a serious thing that companies take a look at. They look at whether or not how presentable they are in court when something does come up. And it wouldn't have been to this point if things were people were less antsy, if people were less antsy to sue, there wouldn't be so many problems now with society. I mean, this isn't just in the trucking industry, it's pretty much everywhere. But it's, the trucking industry is a moneymaker for a lot of them. That's why you have so many that will come in and they brake check drivers and stuff like that, because they know it's so easy to sue and get a good chunk of money. It's like the slip and fall victims, it's out there and people take advantage of that. So when you have a company that really tries to stay on that A-lister type of list, they have to watch their back when they're doing the hiring, because they want to make sure that they don't have any probable cause of being able to go to court with anybody.
And so, we don't bring these things up, to make fun of people or put, excuse me, or to put drivers down. Okay. We bring these things up so that you'll be more cautious, Ruthann, right? I mean,
cautious, and if you happen to fall underneath any of these categories, at least a little bit of understanding that maybe you didn't get before of why.
Like for example, we talk a lot about the SAP program and stuff like that. In all honesty, if you're going to have a CDL, you've got to, honestly treat that license like it's gold. If you're driving in snow and icy weather and you're uncomfortable, you need to park it. These are warnings, and the statistics are high, and winter's coming, and we all know the drivers, again, without the CBs, there's going to be pileups, right? Every year now, the pileups are getting bigger and more prevalent. So, we just want everybody to take caution. Okay. So, anyways, I just wanted to bring all that up as far as negligent hiring and why. So a lot of drivers, they don't understand, Ruthann. A lot of drivers don't understand why, companies don't hire them. And this is really the big reason is, how defendable in court are you, and are you meeting the company's minimal hiring requirements? Okay, so moving on. Okay, so moving on. Real quick, just a couple little things here. Interesting article I read about this company had ordered 10 Teslas, right? And it's funny is because they were testing it out in the year 2024, which is our current year. And so they write, and I'm actually like laughing at it. It said the trial included one long haul of 390 miles fully loaded. And the company's DHL. They say they were able to get 500 miles fully loaded out of a full charge of operating at speeds of over 50. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, if you have 300-gallon tanks on both sides, okay, you know what you can get to the tank? Like 2,000 miles. And then when you get there, you can you can literally fuel up in a matter of minutes. You've got to sit and wait for, I think, pretty much hours for your Tesla semi-truck to recharge just to get another 500 miles out of it. Mm-hmm. That's, in all sincerity, I doubt you're going to get 500. Like if you have a 600-mile load for the day, right, and you're an over-the-road trucker, and you have to go up and down hills. And I know you're going to want to do more than 50 miles an hour. You did catch that, right? Mm-hmm. 50 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that. Guess what? A truck driver going across the country at 70 to 80 miles an hour on a full charge Tesla with 80,000 pounds, I would tell you, guess what? You're going to lose big time with an electric truck. So I don't see I'm not impressed by that article. Please write in and tell me if I'm missing something. Moving on. Real quick, one last thing I wanted to mention. Interesting article I read about truck parking. An article that said 70% of truckers forced to violate hours of service to find, a safe place to park. 70% of drivers, Ruthann, they're forced to actually violate their hours of service to find a place where they're parking. And here's why. I never knew this. It says according to the ATA, there's only 313,000 truck parking spaces nationwide. But there's over 3 million truckers. Now, we know that a lot of them go home every day and some park on their own land and blah, blah, blah. But technically, what we know of is there's a lot more trucks than parking places, and this is why everybody's having a problem. Okay, this gap needs to be filled. And you know my theory on this. I'm going to tell you it again, just so if anybody's listening, maybe the politicians are listening. Somebody listen to Troy for a second. Do you think they should listen?
I think you got good ideas usually.
Okay, well, here's my idea. It's the same idea I had a year or two ago when we started talking about this problem. I believe every town, every city, every county, okay, every state, however you want to put it on, okay, they have enough land that they don't use, all right, that's city-owned or state-owned or county-owned, that they should be obligated to provide parking for these truckers free of charge if they get freight. You know, if truckers are delivering to your town, like I'll tell you, New York City's the worst. They expect truckers in the winter. This is how much of a scumbag city New York City is, okay? They expect truckers to deliver their freight in January, but not to idle more than 2 minutes. So if you don't have an APU, they expect you to freeze your tail off while you're waiting to be unloaded somewhere in that city, or risk, because remember, there's guys that go around ratting on truckers that are idling so that they can get part of the fine. Remember, they get a percent of their fine. Mm-hmm. That's a big money maker, is ratting on truckers. But you morons, you're the ones receiving this freight, but yet you play a game with our truck. That's one of the other reasons why truckers don't want to go to that city. Mm-hmm. It's like there's nowhere to park. You go there, it costs you $1 million to get in and out. You're a trucker, and all you're doing is delivering them their freaking freight. It's ridiculous. So my thing is, I don't care if it's Jacksonville, Florida, if it's Tampa, Florida, if it's Atlanta, Georgia, if it's out in the country in Alabama, okay? I think you guys that are receiving the freight, okay, should be obligated to provide a rest area with showers and accommodations for these truck drivers, because they, by law, have to shut down. They need a place to stay. And I'll tell you something else who should also be able to be obligated, okay? The shippers, where a driver has to wait for your freight, you should be obligated to have a area zone for these guys that run out of hours. There's shippers and receivers that'll kick these guys off their property, even if they're out of hours. You can't stay here, driver. Get out of here now. Go on. Get out of here. I'll kick you in the butt.
I think that's horrible, because 90% of the time, the reason the driver has to leave when they're there is because they don't have their load ready for them.
Absolutely.
So it's their fault. I understand there's times where drivers are like, I'm just going to get there, and they're early, hoping to get done and get out. Mm-hmm. And that's respectable. The company should look at it as like, okay, I respect that you're here earlier in hopes that we can get you out, but we can't. But the ones that they say, no, we're not ready for you, we're now going to move you back to the next day because, gosh, we just couldn't get moving fast enough. Whatever the case might be, those drivers there should definitely be able to stay on the lot, because they're coming right back first thing in the morning. It's their they're the ones that are at fault, definitely.
Well, see, my whole view is shippers, receivers should be obligated to have a safe space for truckers, and then every borough or city or wherever they're, like if you got like these industrial parks and you're receiving freight, you got cold storage warehouses, you guys are the ones benefiting from that freight coming in there. You know, you got a working man that's now being, going to a truck stop and having to pay, truck stops for parking spaces. I would tell you, I believe you guys should be all obligated. I really do.
They should.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's now truck parking places, like we have a truck parking club that providing it, and that's a good service they're providing. Okay, but at the same time, I still think that these states and cities and counties, there should be a law that they have to provide X amount of spaces.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's when it comes to a lot of the fact that the driver's there on their property to kick them off because they're not ready for them because of it being them. Now, I think that any one of them, like you said, if you're an industrial park, if you're any industrial parks especially, you have the room. Let the drivers be on there. Let them use your bathroom. You know, you got cameras up all over the place. If someone screwed up and was rude and ignorant and disrespected the property, you at least have record of who it is because you all have cameras everywhere. Charge them. Don't charge everybody. Charge them that messed it up.
And I'm glad you bring that point up because at one time all Walmarts were free for truckers to pull in. And this is only directed to the bad truckers. You know who you are. You guys that were leaving your piss bottles, okay? And that's number one. You got customers walking in going, man, it smells like piss out there. And then the manager's coming in and parking, and he's going, wow, where's that piss smell coming from? And everybody starts putting two and two together, and they know where the trucker was parked, and they see the piss bottles. And then one Walmart was telling me that there was truckers changing their oil and just leaving it. That guys, you literally ruined it for the good drivers. So there are some truckers, okay, that literally ruined it for everybody. Oh, so, you know, to me, I'll tell you what, I seen a trucker one time, a video, all right, and the guy was a U.S. Express driver. He was sitting on the side of a parking lot in a truck stop, and this dude was literally taking his garbage and tossing it out the window into the grass, thinking nobody could see him because his truck was blocking because he was parked up against the side there where the woods and the grass was. So he was just rolling his window down. And another trucker from another, you know, obviously another truck, he's seen the stuff, you know, I guess going out, and he come walking around with the video, and then the U.S. Express trucker put a bandana over his face, and the trucker's like putting his truck number up there and everything, and I was glad he did.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there, you are littering. I mean, it's like, why the hell would you? We need the trucker brotherhood to be coming back, guys. And I'm telling you, police your area. You see a truck driver acting like a jackass, report him. I'm serious. Record them and report
the
them.
long haul bandits.
They were doing it. Yeah.
That's what the long haul bandits were out there trying to bring back the old school trucking to where they were so respectful of one another and they were behind one another. That's all they wanted to do. But honestly, if you think about how lazy are you that you can't get off your butt and walk up to the garbage can and throw the garbage away when we already know you walked in there to get your food.
Well, some of them park in the fuel aisle and literally, I mean, there's a guy I'm watching now. He's videoing these truck drivers that pull up to the fuel aisle and don't even fuel yet. They go in and go shopping for about a half hour, and then they come out and start fueling. And they're holding up like two truckers behind them. All because they couldn't park or at least fuel up and then pull. You know, fuel up and then pull up. If there's no parking in this truck stop, fuel up and then pull up, and then at least let the guy behind you do your thing. And by the time he's done fueling, you should be out with your food. But by no means should you stay in the fuel aisle until where the guy behind you. It doesn't do it. And if somebody did it to you, that doesn't mean you should do it to the next guy.
No, it's honestly, you wonder why there's so much disgruntledness amongst people. And right there it is. I mean, you purposely do things. I was having a conversation before with someone, you know, they wonder why there's so much road rage going on. Well, there's road rage going on because people don't know what the rules are. They get in the passing lane, they don't pass anybody. They sit there. Well, next thing you know, you're stuck between two people that are going the same amount of speed because one won't get around. And then when you go around some of them, the one then tries to speed up and gets closer so that you actually cannot get past them. That causes road rage.
Well, everybody's bitching about that. You know, going back to the driver that's littering and leaving piss bottles and everything. Do you remember the movie Full Metal Jacket? Mm-hmm. Do you remember what they did to Pyle when he kept messing up?
They're going to get soaped. Beat with the soap.
No, we don't want that because if a trucker ends up getting blanketed in and beat with soap. We got it from Talk CDL.
Well, we're just saying that's what happened to Pyle.
Yeah, we're just saying, sometimes you gotta at least tell on the driver, and let's clean up the industry, guys. Ruth Ann, I'm just babbling. I just want everybody to know we really appreciate you guys. We appreciate every one of you guys that write in. Some of your letters that you write us, Ruth Ann, they're so kind. Honestly, you guys really, we feel like some of them are like family. They write in all the time. Like there's guys that write in, they'll just kind of update me. Like I said, I got my crew that's like updating me with, hey, I want to tell you about these roads that are shut down in North Carolina, the crew, I call them the crew. And I'm like, man, I really appreciate that, and then we kind of post those things. And I just want these guys to know that we truly appreciate those guys. We've been doing this show since 2015. In November of 2015 is when if you go and try to find our very first episodes, which you can find them, all right, on, I think you could find them on Apple, or if you go on our website and trace it all the way back to the beginning, you can find back when the audio sucked, and there was a lot of fighting on the show and all that other stuff. And I used to get letters from people saying, hey man, watch your mouth. But we appreciate you guys, especially you guys that have been with us for 9 years. We're just about at 10 years doing this. And I wanted to say this, that there's been a lot of times where I was ready to just go, I am so worn out every week researching and doing this, and then being in editing and putting in hours. How many hours do we put into one show? Hours, Ruth Ann, hours. And how many times have I said to you, man, I don't know how much longer I want to do this. And then we get a letter from somebody thanking us and, saying, you guys are awesome and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to tell you guys, you truck drivers rock. You keep us going. I'm telling you, it's not the sponsors that pay us. I mean that sincerely. That's not why I keep going. It's not like we really make a whole lot of money off the show. It's the guys that and the gals that keep encouraging us. That's why I keep going. I'm serious.
There's I don't know if a lot of the drivers know that there's actually we have our Talk CDL Facebook page, but there was also a group page that we have that's with Talk CDL, and it's
Talk CDL Trucking Podcast Group. Yeah. And they could actually...
You can talk one another in there.
Yeah.
We have an admin that we have one or two on there that kind of monitors. Excuse me. They monitor it for the ones that shouldn't be saying certain things.
But they can post in there too.
But yeah, you can post and talk to each other, and there's a lot that you could do in there. So you could check that out. Troy put up when he created it, and he put up a funky picture of us, and it's like green, I think. It's like a comic book one.
Yeah. And then also don't forget about the YouTube channel, and that's growing. We've been doing like short videos there of show trucks and all kind of neat. It's a little different than the Talk CDL Facebook page. Mm-hmm. That page has over 400,000 on it, and there's a lot of wrecks and bad things that get put up on that page, but they drivers share it and love it, so we'll keep posting it. So, but yeah, thank you guys and gals. I mean,
and if you have a video or anything like that, send it in.
Yeah, send it in. We'll make you go viral, But anyways, thank you. I can't say it enough. Ruth Ann, do you have the word of the day?
I do.
Really? Is it ready?
It's ready.
Go for it.
Viator.
Oh,
Viator.
Viator. What is Viator?
Viator is a traveler.
A traveler?
Mm-hmm. A traveler or a wayfarer, but they're traveler.
So the truckers are all Viators.
Pretty much. They're a traveler. Nice. A Viator appeared at the door just before the desk clerk was about to leave the inn for the night. At the conference, I'm getting like you. At the conference, Viators from many different countries ate together in the dining room.
Super cool. I like that. It goes with the show, Ruth Ann. Viator.
That
is so cool.
Makes me think of like Darth Vader. Viator.
Yeah. Wow. We're debating we're going to the Louisville Truck Show again this year. We haven't totally decided, but I guess we're getting emails from them.
Yeah, we're getting emails from them wanting us to come out, and I just haven't really put it out there. And the same with the Florida Truck Show.
Yeah, I mean, really enjoyed being there and doing interviews and all. We may go back. We'll see. But other than that, I think that is it. We're out of here.
Peace.
Peace. Praise the Lord.